Right, okay, so I'm standing outside St John's Wood Tube and I've come up to St John's Wood today to film the vlog which will accompany my 5th novel I've just published, The Lady Anna. And the action starts in St John's Wood, so I'm just going to be going and doing some filming in some of the residential roads down here. I've set it in Cochrane Terrace in Duro Villas, and so the St John's Wood estate was built around the 1830s, and it was the first sort of London suburb, so like wealthy people lived in the city, didn't want to live in the smoke of the city, and this was the first sort of suburb that was built, and they owned a lot of the, they owned or rented a lot of the houses. So I'm just going to go down here and do some filming. I am conscious of the time because I know my vlogs tend to morph into hour-long videos, and I know the average YouTube video is about 10 minutes these days, so I'm trying not to bang on and waffle too much, but I do go on a bit, so... So anyway, I'm just going to walk a bit further down and I'm going to do some filming of the lovely Italianate and Georgian architecture, neoclassical architecture of St John's Wood. Right, so I'm now standing in Acacia Road. I've just come from the tube station, which is up there, St John's Wood Tube. And this is just an example of one of the many roads that were built in the early 1800s, I think it's like 1820s, 1830s. St John's Wood's sort of housing estate was built, and like I said earlier, for sort of rich people lived in the city, you didn't want to live in the smoke and the dirt of the city anymore, came out to what were then the sort of first residential suburbs of London. And this is just giving you an idea of the sort of type of housing that was built. This is like sort of neoclassical, but you know, there was a mixture. There was like Italianate, which is where I set Duro Villas, and you've got a sort of Gothic sort of castle-y thing there. And it just gives you the general idea of what the roads would have looked like. Nothing really much has changed since my novel set, which is the 1880s. Apart from the cars, of course, they wouldn't have had cars, parts, you know. Yeah, as I say in the book, St John's Wood was famous, amongst other things. They did have a lot of sort of writers and artists and authors did live in St John's Wood at that time. But during the late Victorian era, it was famous for very rich men kept their mistresses here, because the roads, like the houses, as you can see, are all sort of behind trees. Like all the roads, like tree lined, and the trees would have covered the houses, and it was all very discreet and all very secluded. And sort of men would come out here in either their sort of carriages, so they'd be dropped off around the corner, or I'd get a cab out here and they'd visit their mistresses that they kept here. And that's basically what my character's mum, how she starts life as a milliner, and then she meets Lord Hartley, and then he sort of keeps her in one of these houses around here, and that's basically her, that's how she starts life. Right, I'm standing in Wellington Place, and this road here is Cochrane Street, and it would have been called Cochrane Terrace back in the 1880s, and Duro Villas would have been along here. They've all been knocked down now, and I think there's only one original house left. I'll go and film that in a minute. Yeah, so this is where I've set Anna and her mum living, and this, over this, what's now like a park now, this would have been the churchyard to St John's Church, where she got married later on. And if you walk through there, the other side of that, that's St John's Church, yeah. And I'm just going to show you this cab stand here. Now, this cab stand was built back in the late Victorian era, and it was built because like I said earlier, the guys that had their bits on the side living around here, a lot of them didn't want to use their own form of transport. They didn't want to use their own carriage and gossiping and whatnot, so they wanted to get cabs down here to visit their bits of fluff, and they managed to sort of convince, you know, whoever builds these things to build a cab stand, and that's why that cab stand was built, and that's still here now to this day. That's what I've just walked down. That's St John's Wood High Street there. I've just walked down there, and I'm just going to walk down Cochrane Street. Just so you can see that behind those trees, that's Lord's cricket ground, that is, so that's sort of got some bearings as to where we are. I'm just going to quickly film this, but you can't really see it. Behind that tree there's that's the only original building in Cochrane Street. It's all been demolished. It either got blitzed or they fell into disrepair, and a lot of these buildings were demolished in like sort of slum clearance programs of the 60s. Okay, so this is the sort of only original building left in this road, and these are look like these are all council flats that were built. Looks like 1960s, doesn't it? So yeah, they were probably knocked down as part of the 60s slum clearance. And yeah, this is the only one left standing.
I'm moving through anyway. Small ones.
I've just come to Victoria Street just to do a little bit of filming. There's only a little bit of the book takes part in Victoria Street, and that's Anna's dad lives in a hotel here, and of course, you know, it's completely changed since the Victorian era. All these buildings are modern. I mean, this one here, this wasn't even built when I worked around here. That's all new. Yeah, they knocked down a great big 1960s office development thing there in Palace Street. Palace Street's just beyond this building there. They knocked it down. I worked there loads of times. It was an awful 1960s office block shop unit things, horrible. And they knocked that down and they built that modern building there. Yeah, that's Brissenden Place there. And there's actually access to the underground now. That wasn't there in my day. Yeah. I mean, I worked around here for 20 years, installing phone lines in all these buildings here, up and down it. Apparently, the Army and Navy Department Store, which is down the far end of Victoria Street, apparently that's closed. I can't believe it. It's been there for, you know, since the late, you know, mid to late Victorian era. That, you know. Oh yeah, it's a big shock. But anyway, yeah, this is where Anna's dad lived, in this sort of cheap, seedy hotel. And that's it. That's Victoria Street. Yeah. That's Francis Street down there. Right down the end of this road, Francis Street, is Pimlico Telephone Exchange. I used to spend a lot of time in there, both as an external engineer and as what we call on the frame exchange engineer. Yeah, but that's it. That's Victoria Street. I'm not going to walk all the way down there. It's not because I'm lazy. It's just that I'm the time factor. I've got to get 2 other bits filmed and get back. Yeah. So anyway, here we go. That's Victoria Street. That's Victoria Station there, and I'm just heading off now to Eaton Square to do a bit of filming. Okay, so this is Eaton Square, Belgravia, and you're not going to believe this. I've set my book in 28 Eaton Square, and guess what? Covered with hoarding. Yeah, bloody great. But I'll just sort of show you the. This is Eaton Square as well. This just gives you an idea of, you know, the house she lived in after she married Lord Albury. And I mean, I spoke earlier about St John's Wood. You've got to have pots of money. Well, to live around here in Belgravia, you've got to be eye-wateringly rich, mega rich. I say with Victoria Street, I spent 20 years working around here. installing phone lines, and the majority of the buildings, they're not one house, they're split into flats. So you'd have a basement flat, a ground floor, first floor, second floor, right up in the attic that used to be the sort of servants' accommodation back in the Victorian era. That they're flats as well now. And I mean, when I worked here throughout the 80s, 90s, up into the 2000s, I mean, you're talking one of those flats are probably about 10-15 million. That's back then, so you can imagine what the whole house costs. I don't think I ever worked in a house either here or anywhere else in Belgravia that I'm just trying to remember that was all one house, residential. Sometimes offices, embassies, there's loads of embassies around here, they're all one building, but yeah, very, very expensive to live around here. So just get the bearings as to where we are. This is Eccleston Street, but if down the far end there. So this is Eaton Square here, and it's the main sort of road this way. There's Sloane Squares at the end here. So you've got King's Road, Sloane Square, and you've got Eaton Square, and that comes out in Grosvenor Place. Yeah, and I'm just going to go and do some filming up in Belgrave Square, which is up there. Which is, I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but where Anna ends up. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, this is Eaton Square. Yeah. I mean, all this estate here belongs to the Duke of Westminster. This is known as the Grosvenor Estate, or most of Belgravia is the Grosvenor Estate, and he owns all of this. Yeah. I mean, when I worked around it was Gerald Grosvenor. He was a Duke of Westminster, and I've actually worked. He owns he owns all of it, but he actually lives in. I'm not going to say exactly where it is, but it's one of the buildings there. He's got like a penthouse, and I actually put some lines in there and met him. Yeah, back in I think the 90s. He's dead now, so his son's like the new Duke of Westminster. Yeah, but great memories. You can't run any cables on the outside of the building, and all the DPs around the back. Yeah, they won't let you run any cables on the front. Yeah, anyway, that's Eaton Square, Belgravia. Yeah, okay, that's where Anna lived after she married Lord Albury. Okay, well, this is Victoria Station, and doing a little bit of filming in here to show you where Anna and Lord Albury would have travelled down to Dover. And I've come in here to film this because it's a bit nostalgic for me, because I spent 20 years working on this area, and I used to do a lot of work in Victoria Station, and I know it really, really well. So yeah, I know all these places very well. Most of these units here used to install phone lines in. Over there, there's an escalator that goes over there to Victoria Place, which is like a shopping mall thing, and I used to do a lot of work in there because they were always having phone lines installed for whatever reason. Yeah, and yeah, this is where I worked. That's the hotel. It used to be called the I think it was the Grosvenor Thistle in my day, back in the late 80s, 90s, up into the 2000s. Yeah, I don't think it's called that anymore. Yeah, yeah, I worked here right until they made it out of hours for health and safety reasons. Obviously, you can see how busy it is, and I used to come here and run cables and be running around all these windows. These are all the offices, and there's what we call DPs, distribution points, where we wire up all the phone lines. Well, it was always forever going and working in there, and so for health and safety reasons they made it out of hours, and I stopped doing it then. Yeah, over there, that's the famous platform 1. That's where the Orient Express goes from. Yeah, I used to see that coming in and out from time to time. Yeah. But I think there's the Gatwick Express. This is platform 1 or 2. Yeah, but that's the famous Orient Express leads through there. Yeah. So I'm up here with my oldest, and we're going to go and find something to eat now. Might go to Victoria Place. Very expensive up here. I never used to buy food up here. Too expensive. Couldn't afford it. I always bought up my own food. I couldn't even afford to buy tea here most of the time. It's about double what it is down where I live in South West London, so I couldn't even afford that. Yeah, but yeah, okay, that's Victoria Station, and that features in the novel. That's where Anna and Lady Aubrey, Anna and Lord Aubrey leave to go to Dover. Yeah, that's it. Right, this is Victoria Place. Saying earlier, this is the sort of shopping mall thing, sort of bolted onto the sides of Victoria Station. I'm up in the food court thing at the moment. My oldest son's gone off to get some chips. And yeah, he used to do a lot of work in here. He used to install phone lines. They're always having these shop units here. We're always having phone lines put in. A lot of these years closed, I suppose. In the pandemic, they closed and they never reopened. Yeah. If you behind this screen here, this is the service entrance for all the shop units here. These are where all the DPs are, the distribution points that we wire up phones to. And if you go behind here, there's this is built on what was the like parcel office for Victoria Station. And if you go behind here, you can see all the original red brick like architecture and all the carved stonework for whatever railway company it was here. I can't remember. But yeah, that's all this hoarding here is covering all that up. Yeah. I used to go around the back there quite a lot, and yeah, you can see that. But yeah, this is Victoria Place. Underneath here, there's the basement area. I don't know what they've got there now, but it used to be the baggage check-in for Gatwick Airport. So you could check your baggage in, get your boarding pass, and then get the Gatwick Express down to and all your bags used to be taken down there. But they scrapped that after Lockerbie because there was no unaccompanied baggage, so they stopped it. But yeah, I used to park up the back here. There's a car park up the back here. I used to park my van in there, and there was a lot of taxis all queuing up around the back there. And yeah, I used to park my van there and come in here and work. And yeah. It's very expensive up here. Like I said earlier, I could never afford to eat up here. It's just too expensive. Yeah, to bring my own food up. Yeah. Okay, so it's Victoria Place. Yeah. Okay, right. Now this is Belgrave Square. This is where Anna ends up. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but where she ends up living. Right at the end of the book. Once again, know it really well. Worked in nearly all the buildings around here. They're mostly embassies. That's the Norwegian embassy. Yeah. And I used to love working in embassies because the people there were really, really nice. And you never got any trouble from them. They were lovely. Yeah, I was going to go into Chesham Place to do a bit of filming. Only because, which is there, that's Chesham Place there. Belgrave telephone exchange there, which I know really well, which is gone. They knocked it down in the early 2000s. It's gone, it's flats now. But yeah, let's just show you Belgrave Square. I mean, we've walked here like from Victoria Station getting the tube up, and then I did a bit of filming in Eaton Square. And then I've walked here. I didn't realise, you know, when I worked here I had the van and I just used to get in the van and drive everywhere. And you sort of think to yourself, oh, you know, Eaton Square's only around the corner from Belgrave Square, walk there, but it's a lot further when you got to walk there. Yeah. Okay, I met that building there. See it on here. That's the Turkish embassy there, and I remember they used to have a protest by the Greek Cypriots because the Turks invaded, didn't they, back in the early 70s, and they used to have a protest, and it started off with a whole bunch of people, 100 people, and then over the years it dwindled, and when there was only about 3 there back in the early 2000s. It dwindled down to about 3 of them standing outside the Turkish embassy protesting, waving placards and chanting. And then one day I drove past there and it was gone, and that was it, you know, they'd given up. Yeah. But I suppose they all got old or just gave up or lost interest because, you know, the Turks still occupy, you know, a part of Cyprus, don't they, you know. So, yeah, it was That was quite funny to see that, yeah. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, that's Belgrave Square. So all the flags you see there, that's all the embassies of the different countries. Yeah, okay, that's it. That's Belgrave Square. I'm going to head back home now because I'm losing time. I'll get back now. Okay, that's it.